1 year. Where would you be if you committed yourself to working on yourself for 1 year? Taking care of yourself, becoming your highest self.
I'm sorry, I just cried.
Ignoring the negative judgments of other people, forgiving yourself for the past, letting go of that guilt, not caring about other people's progress, but simply disappearing and focusing on yourself. Maybe right now you're stuck somewhere you don't belong. You might even be at the lowest point in your life. Maybe you spent your whole life taking care of other people. But who's there to take care of you? This time around, you need to take care of yourself. One year ago, I was at my lowest point in my life. I was in circumstances that I've never been in before, and mentally, I was so tired. I was crying every single day. And I was struggling to be optimistic for the future. Every day seemed like a battle to get up and pretend that everything was okay. Like everything was normal when really I felt like I was empty inside. And soon enough, my mental struggles manifested into physical symptoms as well. For example, my hair started falling out in clumps and my skin looked like it had third-degree burns. It was inflamed and painful to touch, and my energy levels were at an all-time low. This in turn affected my self-confidence and my self-esteem, and I felt like a shell of the person that I was before. When Christmas came around, I was excited as it had always been my favorite holiday. But instead, I found myself sitting in the bathroom floor and crying, wondering if I would feel like this forever, if this was where I was going to be forever. I came to the realization that it was my choice to make. It was my life. It wasn't the universe or any superhuman being going against me. It was myself. I was the problem. Why was I giving so much of myself, my emotions, and my energy to people who couldn't care less about me? I didn't deserve this. I knew I didn't. I was the problem, but I was also the solution. That's when I learned my first lesson. We have to make the change. Nobody else can do it for us. If we want something to happen, we have to make it happen. And that means that I have to care about myself and I have to want the best for myself. Sometimes we know that some things are bad for us and yet we do them anyway. Like eating a family-sized bag of chips while watching a movie on Netflix. Don't worry, we've all been there. And yet we still do it even though we know that it's bad for us. We have to make decisions that are good for ourselves. The first few months were difficult. The first step to any change is difficult. Ignoring negative people in my life, trying to change toxic behaviors, self-reflection, focusing on my career, finances, and studies. Hold on. I'm gonna turn the lights on because it's getting dark. Okay, I hope that was a bit better. I struggled with falling back into old habits and envying other people and their circumstances. Their lives seemed so perfect and they never had to go through anything that I had to go through. But I did some self-reflection, and who am I to judge from the outside? How would I have known what they've gone through? And why would I diminish the hard work that they put into their lives for their own success? The reality is, people are going to be born in different situations, into different families, into different circumstances, and we can't use people who are better than us or worse off than us as excuses for ourselves into not improving and changing ourselves. Which leads me to my second lesson that I've learned, which is stop being jealous and envious of other people and instead use them as inspirations. Take the energy that we would have spent resenting them and focus it on ourselves and think of actions that we can improve in order to achieve that for ourselves. Being jealous of other people does nothing but spew negative energy. We scroll through social media and we see people who are happier, healthier, and more wealthy than we'll ever be in our lives. Or so it seems, because we can only tell so much from the outside. If we don't even know what's going on in their lives in reality, then why should we compare? We have to think of success as not a zero-sum game. So one person's success doesn't mean the detriment of our own. If somebody else loses weight or gets a promotion or gets their dream body, it doesn't mean that we can't have that as well. A huge realization for me was turning resentment into a lesson. So look at what you're jealous of in other people's lives, and I wanted to see how they got there. How can we learn from their actions, and how can we look up to them?
Far from this place, in the morning I wait.
Next, through these few months, I've tried many things to fix the physical manifestations of what I went through mentally, which mainly was my skin. And if you were on my channel for a long time, you know that I'm super focused on skincare, because skin is something that you wear for the rest of your life. And it just made me extremely self-conscious and uncomfortable. I read tons of research, looked at articles after articles after articles, and tried so many different skincare products. And although I kept on failing and failing one after the other, I never gave up. This determination was something that I haven't felt in a long time, which leads me to the third lesson that I learned, which is failure is our superpower. Failing is never a good feeling, but if we always stay in our comfort zone, we're never going to get what we want. We're not going to wake up one day and achieve our goals because we've thought about it all night, or because we've dreamed about them, because our intentions aren't enough, and it's the actions that matter. We have to be persistent and determined. And after failed attempt and failed attempt, at least we know what doesn't work and what we can change. We can move on to the next, and we shouldn't give up on the first sign of failure. And eventually I found a solution. So this mentality not only applied through my skincare journey, but also in all aspects of life. For the first time in forever, I felt optimistic about my future.
Honey, better let it go sometimes.
But still, there was one huge factor that I needed to overcome, which was my loneliness. The people that you surround yourself with have a huge impact on your mental state, your emotions, and your actions. Some people can make us feel alone even if we're around them. And sometimes we keep people that hurt us in our lives because we're scared of being alone. That's when I learned the fourth lesson. Being lonely and being alone is completely different. We shouldn't burn ourselves to keep other people warm. And if that means distancing ourselves from toxic people or toxic behaviors for a while because it's the best for us, then that should be okay. But sometimes this is, well, almost always, this is easier said than done because our lives are so intertwined with these people. Sometimes they can be family members, sometimes they can be your love interest, and sometimes they can be extremely close friends, that it can be extremely hard to distance yourself from them. But toxic people can also make us feel emotionally drained, we have to say to ourselves that we have value. We have to prioritize our happiness because you can't pour from an empty cup. I have to do what's best for myself and my life in the current situations, and even if it might hurt in the moment, I can tell you firsthand that it's way better to be alone than to be around people who make you feel lonely.
Love was on you, and maybe I needed to be heard.
And with that out of the way, I could focus on things that I enjoyed again. But what did I even enjoy anymore? I signed up for sports that I used to love, like soccer and field hockey, and participated in activities that I've enjoyed since I was a kid, like journaling and reading. And of course, I was also extremely focused on YouTube. I was, and I feel like I always am, trying to become a better YouTuber with every video, trying to learn different animations, trying to learn how to edit better and more efficiently so I can produce content, which leads me to the 5th lesson that I've learned, which is make time for ourselves to do things and activities that we're truly innately passionate about. Now, there were things that I was truly passionate about again, and I felt like I wasn't just going through the motions of life, but that I was truly living. I added new healthy coping mechanisms into my life, and I realized the things that are so basic that everybody tells you to do, like have a good night's sleep, drink water, eat your fruits and vegetables, they all have meaning to them. Sometimes we might roll our eyes at these things because they're so generic and said over and over again, but all of these have scientifically backed reasons of why they truly work. So this leads me to my next point, which is lesson number 6 that I learned. Don't roll your eyes at the advice that people give us or make excuses for ourselves about why they would never work. Sorry. So as I was saying, actually try them out, and over time things got better and better, and dreams that I had at the beginning of the year started manifesting to be true more and more. For example, I graduated, I moved to my first apartment, I moved to a different city and got my first job. I guess you can come in. Alright, so welcome to my new apartment. The microwave.
What you microwaving there?
Some pieces of paper. I was focusing on my career outside of YouTube and on YouTube. I started getting more genuine friendships and battled with my phone addiction. And most importantly, I focused on my health, both physical and mental. I was more motivated and disciplined than ever. And in these moments, sometimes I would just sit down and think about how less than a year ago, a couple months ago, I was in a completely different headspace, and my life trajectory was totally different from where I wanted it to be. And I just think like everything is coming together, knock on wood, and things will for you as well. I was so proud of myself, but that doesn't mean that I didn't struggle sometimes too. And this led me to my 7th lesson, which was progress is not linear. Sometimes past traumas would bring me back, and you can't get over something in an instant, as well as working so much all the time was making myself burnt out. Through these struggles though, I knew that I had to take everything day by day, small steps at a time, and I knew that consistency was key. Which leads me to lesson number 8 that I learned, which is small, consistent steps lead to huge changes. And throughout everything, we can't rely on motivation, but we have to rely on discipline. Some days you don't want to wake up and work out. Some days you don't want to wake up and go to work first thing in the morning. But what I learned was action does not follow motivation. And sometimes motivation comes from the action itself. And at the end of the day, for a lasting change to happen, we have to continue to strive to always be better while being happy with where we are now. And always to continuously implement the lessons that we've learned so far in our lives.
Ready?
Yeah, go.
It's the end of the year. Everywhere on TV, couples and Christmas trees, gift wrapping and cheer. Just the
Yeah, let me
worst
smell it
time
with the
to be
camera.
without someone special. In all the movies there, kissing.
And now I'm here with my first ever Christmas tree of my own. And you kind of realize that once you become a more positive person, other more positive people will be attracted to you as well. We know that hurt people, but the opposite is true too. People who genuinely care about you, people who share the same interests as you, and people who will give you everything you deserve and more. At the end of the day, I still have a lot to experience and a lot more to learn and a lot more life to live. I've learned to become a woman that I can look up to, someone that I've always wanted to be. And although I'm far from perfect, I've learned to accept and even love the imperfections that I can't change. And I've learned to seek to improve things that I can. Growing up is hard, but at least we can do this together. So to end off this video, I want to tell you guys that starting tomorrow, I'm going to be posting every single day for the next 12 days for this little challenge that I'm doing, which is a healthy habits self-care vlogmas. And you guys can join me on these healthy habits as well, because it feels good to have a group encouragement. So we're going to be doing the following habits, which is making our beds, doing a little bit of exercise or just moving your body, showering and lotioning, skincare routine, morning and nighttime, brushing our teeth morning and nighttime, as well as flossing before bed, journaling, reading, tidying up a little bit, and lastly, any self-care activities you want to do, and lots of holiday stuff. Let's end off the year strong, and if you guys enjoy it, I'll continue to do this through January so we can start off the year strong too. I read every single one of my comments. Don't forget to like this video, it would help me a lot. Subscribe for the next videos, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.